Good evening, everybody. We're going to get going in a couple of minutes. For those that are on YouTube or just catching our live stream on YouTube, if anybody's actually on there at the moment, I can't see the chat, so I can't answer questions, but you're more than welcome to join us in the live webinar. I'll put the link in the chat. For those that's just coming in the room, we're going to get going in a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to allow for a few more to come in before we start. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your patience. We're going to get going now. So welcome to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Thanks very much for attending. If you're on YouTube, as I was mentioning before, I can't see the YouTube channel in the chat, so I can't answer any questions if you're typing them in, but you're more than welcome to join the webinar by using the link that I put in the chat. All right, so let's go through some housekeeping before we get going. If you could just read through the disclaimer before we move along, that would be great. As we're going along the webinar, if you have any questions, just type them into the Q&A section of the webinar. I've got the chat box open as well, but try and keep your questions to the question box. That's always helpful. All right, so if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm a senior market strategist and trading mentor at ACY Securities. And for the most part, I'm just full-time Forex trading. Been trading the market now for more than 15 years and have had the opportunity of mentoring clients over the last 10 years. If you want to connect with me, you can get me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. Anything to do with the webinars, feel free to shoot me an email. You can follow me at the acy.com website on the Market News tab, the YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, catch my videos there. And you can connect with me personally at those Twitter and LinkedIn handles there. I'll just leave them on screen a few seconds. If you want to jot anything down, I'll just give you an opportunity to. And as I was mentioning yesterday, we do have a new resource that we're just been testing and rolling out for education purposes and help with those that are maybe learning in the webinars or starting to trade in their accounts. We have a Telegram service that we set up. It's called the ACY Securities Channel Interactive Forex Trading Feed. And what you'll see in there is the tips and tricks that I'm teaching in the webinars. I'm doing some technical analysis and then highlighting the key areas or levels that I'm watching through the trading day that I might want to be trading at if price gets to those levels. If you'd like to get access to that, all you need to do is contact Nathan Bray. So his email's on screen there, nathan.bray@acy.com. And if I just bring that up for you as well, we can have a quick look. Won't spend too much. But this is the feed. And I probably posted 3 or 4 charts today discussing some technical analysis and price patterns that I'm looking at and potentially trading. And I'll probably touch on that analysis anyway tonight. But there's a feed there that we're updating through the course of the day. So if you'd like to get access, just email Nathan Bray, nathan.bray@acy.com, and he'll get back to you. And just before we get into tonight's analysis, tomorrow evening, in the beginning of our webinar series, we're going to be covering trade orders and execution. That's 8 p.m. Sydney time. So if you haven't done orders before, you're a bit confused about orders, then this is the webinar for you. So that will be tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Sydney time. Tonight, we're going to go through live market analysis. So I'm going to get to my charts now. And if you're new to the webinars, then you'll see that my charts are a little bit different to the normal download that you can get at the ACY Securities website. So if you'd like to get access, I'm going to give you some links and you can download a file. Just bear with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link to download the configuration file. I'll give you an email address for Nathan if you want to contact him. Regarding the Telegram service. So the first link is the configuration file. If you don't have it, then it looks like this on my screen here. It's a WinRAR file. You need WinRAR software to open it, which is a free download. Just double click on it. Inside there are folders that need to get moved to the MT4 program folder on your computer. Just watch the 2-minute video of me doing it. It only takes 2 minutes. It's very easy. And then you'll be good to go. If you really struggle and you can't do it, if you contact Nathan in the email I just gave you, he'll be able to give you a hand. All right, so let's get to my chart. So if you do the upgrade, it doesn't delete anything in your platform. What it will do is add in 4 templates, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are mine. On the toolbar here, adds in some extra buttons and tools that I use. And down at the bottom of the profile section, it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4 profiles, which are mine. Currently tonight, I'm using the 12 pairs. And at the moment, generally, I'm using 12 pairs profile at the moment. All right, what you'll get in the 12 pairs profile is 12 currency pairs in 15-minute charts along the bottom and a daily chart of the dollar index. I do have some extra charts open here, but that's what you get when it first comes to you. All right, so feel free to download and set up. And just before I do get into the charts today, it's worth just going and having a look at forexfactor.com for the news items coming out for the day. These are my time, Queensland time. So there is 11:30 p.m. tonight, the US CPI coming out and core CPI. That could move the market. It's worth understanding that. And it's worth understanding that the US dollar sold off a little bit last night. And that was because Fed Chair Powell testified in the Senate. Whatever he was talking about was obviously a little bit negative on the US dollar side. And we've seen a little bit of rise of the pairs to the US dollar over the last, I would guess, 12 to 18 hours. All right, so let's get to the charts and see what's going on. I'll just show you the levels I'm watching. Now, there's probably 3 pairs. I posted 2 pairs today in the Telegram feed. One was the Euro Yen, and I was looking at this 4-hour chart. So it hasn't moved much since I posted, but we have a 4-hour downtrend here, which is right back up to the 79% level, and I'm anticipating from that level. We've already had this happen once. I'm just going to show you what's been happening during the course of the week. We moved down, we rallied to the 79% level or very close to, and then moved down to 127 extension. And what I'm anticipating is that we may be having a continuation pattern once more. So we've rallied to the 79. Are we going to move down to retest weekly support at move back below weekly support at 130.73, and are we going to trade down to daily support? So that was a pattern that I posted today in the Telegram service. Similar pattern on the Aussie Yen, just to show you where I chart again. And I did have a level of resistance drawn in when I posted it, 83.214. So the pattern I'm looking at here is a downtrend, a rally, and now we're going to get a continuation down from 4-hour resistance at 83.21 and the 79% level. Are we going to move down? All right. So we're just starting to see some weakness in that area. Whatever your trade setup is, then have a look at a setup. If I do drop down to a 15-minute chart, earlier in the day, we have already seen a trend line break. And then we've been moving down from that resistance area, and we're slightly beneath the 79% level at the moment. So whatever your setup is to initiate a trade, then we already have seen trend line break. And what I can also see is that we do have in that area of failure some 15-minute negative divergence. Price has been making a higher high, but the indicator hasn't. All right, so potentially there's a setup for a move down. On the Euro Yen, it's looking very similar. Let me just drop it down to the 15-minute chart. I showed you the higher time frame price projection setup there. The pattern, are we getting a continuation pattern moving down? I hadn't got this drawn in, but there's 4-hour resistance here as well at 131.25.1. And I'm not quite sure we've touched that, but we've been very close. Move it to the 15-minute chart. So we have actually touched that level, came up to 4-hour resistance, and the market's just deliberating, can we move below the 79% retracement? We have seen a trend line break. We have seen divergence on the 15-minute chart at that resistance level. So very similar on the Euro Yen and the Aussie Yen. And obviously we can't go back in time to trade the trend line break, but you could also look for maybe another trend line break later in the day. Maybe trend line break here. If you thought that was a good trigger for initiation of a sell, probably need to look to put your stop above the failure point today up at the top. So just going back to the higher time frame, I'm just anticipating that we may be getting a continuation pattern down and looking to test daily support at 130.01 down to 127 extension. Well, I'll cover the higher time frames in a moment on those two pairs. Very similar pattern as well is showing on the New Zealand yen. Just to show you that there's the highly correlated pairs are kind of showing the same price structure at the moment. On the 4-hour chart, they've moved down, rallying back up to the 79% level and moving down. Now, generally what I say is if you're seeing correlated movements, that's great in terms of seeing a group of pairs moving in the same direction. But you need to pick one to trade, because if you trade all three and all three lose, all three move in the same direction, in the wrong direction for your trade, then you're going to lose on 3 trades. So pick the one that you like the best look of. But it is good when you're seeing 3 pairs all setting up almost exactly the same. If they all start to turn the same time, that's good. It's just showing high correlation on those pairs. Nathan's asking me what my favorite yen pair is. If I have a favorite, it's probably the Aussie yen. But I do like the Euro yen as well. All right, so I'm going to just click through to see if anything else has been occurring. And the Aussie dollar, I'll go through a full top down on these pairs in a moment. I'm just drawing a fib here from this high at the top down to the bottom. This was another pair I posted in the Telegram service, and what I was highlighting was this 62% retracement level. So this move down here is actually last week's range. We're just moving back up inside last week's candle to the 62% level of that candle, and there is a 4-hour level of resistance here at 72.23, and it was a level that I highlighted that price might rally back up to today, and if it did, it could hold. And you can see we got there within a pip of the resistance, and we hit the 62 level. And we've had, as I'm sure you can see, a trend line break failure. In fact, there's a tight trend line break closer in here. And really that trade, if you're selling on the break of the trend line there, stop above the high, you're only risking a maximum of probably 13 or 14 pips, and it's kind of seen that already. So you could be at a break-even perspective now, risk-free, just seeing whether that can move down. If it can move down from a price projection point of view, back to the 4-hour chart, this drop, last week's candle, moving up inside last week's candle to the 62. Then we could use a price measurement, last week's range, project that down from the high point. So that gets down around about 70, 77. Or you could use the fib extension level below, the 127 extension, as a target. Either one would work well. This 71.06 is weekly support, so you might have a trouble there too. But there are just three or four patterns there I've been watching and following over the course of the day, and we are having some reversals where you would expect those patterns to start to turn around. All right, I'm going to go to the dollar yen, and I'm going to discuss top-down analysis. Just showed you there possibly 3 or 4 pairs that are maybe offering you an opportunity to get in at some point if you're following those pairs. But let's go now do some top-down analysis. And the dollar yen, this is the monthly chart. And I'm focusing on this first because if this moves down, all the other yen pairs will move down as well. And this is in a critical area where it's kind of failing. And are we going to be able to hold the uptrend that we're seeing, or are we going to get a major reversal? So I've got in the monthly highs, monthly levels of resistance here. This level here, back in time on the monthly chart, 116.46. Price came up very close to that level and has been retracing back off it. We have moved through this monthly level of resistance here at 114.72. And that level at 114.72. So from here down to that low there, we've been stuck in that range of resistance and support for quite a while, and we are above that area. Just going to get rid of that line for the moment. And we've moved above monthly resistance, traded into the next level of resistance here. And it's not impossible to see price action come back into this range that we've broken out of. All right, but the monthly trend is up. Weekly trend is up. It's going to put my line back in. That's the weekly top there that the market was above, and now it's back below. That's the critical level of support and resistance that the market's working out. Can it hold above or below? So what we're seeing on the weekly chart, the trend is up. MACD trend is up. But we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks up. Maybe it needs a couple of weeks down. And what we're finding is where we had this massive rejection down, we can't hold above 115.51 any longer. So are we getting a major failure here, reversal, or is it just a 1 week reversal, 2 week reversal before we move back up? So weekly trend is up, but we can see we're faltering there at that weekly top. And a weekly support would be down here, 112.52.8. I think if we start to reverse, have a significant reversal, that is your target for the significant reversal in the short term. And the thing that might stop the reversal is this line of monthly old resistance, 114.72 is now monthly support. So to your daily chart, you can see we moved below weekly support. That's becoming resistance. Yesterday we came back up. You can see the wick came back up, traded above, got rejected. MACD's crossing down. So everything's kind of pointing to maybe, yes, a decline in the short term. Not forgetting though that longer term trends are up at the moment. But if we start to move below 114.72, I would say we're getting a reversal. So any short-term move down, for the uptrend to really hold its presence, 114.72 has to hold. You could already be in the frame of mind that you're thinking you're getting a reversal. So from a point of view of becoming a seller, you want to see 115.51 hold as resistance now. And on the move down, you want to see 114.72 break. All right, so the 4-hour chart, it's a bit messy here at the moment. So yesterday, we obviously moved down, rallied, rejected down from the area of weekly resistance, and then, we've got a couple of higher bottoms here. So, lower tops and high bottoms. So, but we are below that key area of resistance or support at 115.51. So that's your line in the sand. If we're continually holding below there, that's good for the sellers in the reversal. If they're going to get into the market and take control, we should see them move it below 114.72. At the moment, in terms of a trade, I'll move to the 15-minute chart. We are moving down at the moment, but I would much prefer to be looking to execute a trade up here. Hold there, trend line break back to the downside. So I'm not seeing anything that I really like the look of, because as I just showed you in the 4-hour chart, higher bottoms and lower tops. It's a little bit mixed at the moment, but My bias is more to the downside in the fact that we're failing at 115.51 yesterday. So depending on what your frame of mind is, you're probably going to see we're going to get a trend line break here. But to me, that's a long way away from this level of resistance. I'd much prefer trading down tight to that 115.51 level. All right. So I'm not saying I would be trading there. I'm just showing you that there's a trend line there that's holding the market right this minute, and there might be a break. You can consider yourself, is that a trigger for you or not? All right, I'm going to go to the Aussie Yen, top-down analysis on this pair. Well, obviously, we've already discussed the 4-hour continuation pattern that might be starting to unfold, but let's do a top-down analysis. I want to go to my weekly chart. I'm going to discuss first of all, the weekly levels of support and resistance. So I'm just going to delete off some of these lines. All right, so a little bit range bound here, but we failed up here at 85.80. And after that failure, we did trade below the last higher bottom here, just turning the weekly trend to down. But of course, we could be in a range here. And we're rallying back up, and we had a very negative week last week, turning at this level of weekly resistance at 83.97. So I'm anticipating that maybe we've moved down. We rallied on the weekly scale, and we're going to put in another leg down this way. Of course, price can come up to the top, but last week's negative candle is suggesting that maybe we've topped. All right, to your day chart trend is turning down. We've broken below the last high bottom. So we are seeing a change in trend now to the day chart being down in line with that weekly downtrend that I've just pointed out. And I can hopefully put in my other lines that I deleted. If you delete a line and you want to put it back, it's just Control Z. All right, saves me having to go back in and draw them. So that line I've just put back in is resistance here. So you can see where it failed at weekly resistance and daily resistance up here between 84.15, 83.97. We've come down to daily support, 82.43, having a bounce. Like these crossed down. I'm anticipating that we're going to be moving down here, and a good target would be, where we held twice at about the 78.83 level, so 79 level. And then let's get these lines off because they're getting in the way of my 4-hour chart. And as we've been seeing on the 4-hour chart, we're holding at this level of 4-hour resistance at 83.21. And I've had a fib drawn across that range there. And we're kind of failing maybe at 79% level here. Maybe putting in railroad tracks. If you're at the candlestick pattern webinar yesterday, we talked about railroad tracks. This candle has to finish yet, but it's kind of making railroad tracks at 4-hour resistance up there. Now, it could move through later in the day. Obviously, at the moment, it's looked like maybe it's reversing, but if it moves through, I'm going to put this fib then from the high at the top. And the 79% level lines up very closely to the weekly level of resistance. So if we do move through, that will be the next area, and I'm watching for an opportunity to sell. At the moment, it looks like price is holding here. So this might be the area where the next opportunity to sell for a trade down is occurring. But if we don't hold here, in line with the day chart downtrend and the weekly chart downtrend, my next level to consider would be up here. All right, so we need to break above that high point there for me to change my levels to watch. So at the moment, this area where we've got resistance and the 79% level is the area that I'm watching. And as I said before, we already have had a trigger in terms of a trend line break. But we had a very tight one up there earlier in the day. Okay. Now it might come back up to retest 83.21 and then fail and hold, give another trend line break to the downside. All right, so there might be still opportunities to get in. All right, that's the Euro Yen. Aussie Dollar covered the pattern. There's potential down, rally, continuation down pattern. Let's do a higher time frame analysis and show you where I'm getting my levels from. Back to the weekly chart. In fact, if you just disregard my lines, and I'm just going to delete a few. Go to the monthly chart. Just wanted to point out there's a clear monthly downtrend here. MACD's crossed down, low tops and bottoms. Okay, weekly trend here, moved down to a lower bottom. This is a rally, and it's starting to put in a top here. This is maybe the lower top for the next move down. So at the moment, we've been holding on this level of monthly support when we drop down, 69.91. Then put in my weekly levels back in. We've come up to, well, this level here is at 72.89. The level I got drawn in, though that line is actually a daily level line, but we came up very close to weekly resistance there. And then we've got a weekly level of support here at 71.70 that we need to break below. We've been below it this week, but bounced above. And below that, there's another level of support. So for this weekly move to continue down, it needs to break below 71.70 weekly support and 71.06 weekly support. And then obviously the target would be 69.93. Can that level break? So to the daily, we've got MACD crossing down. And whilst if you use these dots as high tops and bottoms or lower tops and bottoms, that's moved up to a higher top, and this is maybe a higher bottom. But if you look closely, prices moved down, come up, put in a lower top here, a minor lower top, come down to a lower bottom. Is this putting in another minor lower top here on the rally before moving back down? For our chart, as I was showing you, I have a fib drawn from last week's high to low. We've held at the 62 at the moment. We've held at 4-hour resistance, 72.23. And the question is that where we're putting in maybe the high of the week for a move down? And a move down to see whether we can break below and hold below 71.70 weekly support, come down and test maybe 71.06 weekly support as well. Okay. Of course, this can move further up. There's no guarantee with any technical analysis that you're looking at and levels that you're looking at that all make sense. Price can start to fail there. You get the trigger to take a trade and then just reverses the opposite way. But at the moment, it's looking like 62% level and the 4-hour resistance is holding. But if that price breaks above there, the next level would be the 79% level to watch for a sell level or for a test of last week's high. If we trade above last week's high, that's really putting the picture of the Aussie dollar into an uptrend then, and then you probably need to put your buyer's hat on. Okay. All right, Euro Yen. We've discussed that pattern there. Let's go over a few lines. Let's have a look at the weekly chart. Got my critical levels drawn in. I'm just getting rid of my daily levels at the moment. So we've actually moved down to a lower bottom. So a little bit like the Aussie Yen, lower bottom, having a rally back up. Are we starting to put in the lower top here for, if that leg there was the last move down, can that leg get copied down? Putting in a lower top here, maybe. That's the question. Can we move down? I know MACD's crossing up here, but that's just reacting to price action in the truest sense. Today charts, we're having an uptrend here at the moment. Price action, just putting back in my other levels. That's my level of support there. There's maybe a fresh one forming here, but that's the way I had it at the start of the week. And last week we moved up and failed at daily resistance here. Then we trading back below weekly support from that high over here, 130.73, and then we've popped back above. So obviously for price to continue down, we need to get below weekly support here and then come down and test day support and obviously move down the range. Now MACD is very long in the tooth here. It may be trying to get ready to cross down. So it'd be great if that crossed down. That would start to confirm that maybe the high of last week is the final high. So we don't quite have that confirmation. And we still have higher tops and bottoms here on the day chart. 4-hour chart is maybe showing a downward picture. The day chart trend, though, hasn't changed its downward picture. Obviously, on the Aussie Yen, it has. On this pair, it hasn't yet. So on the 4-hour chart, we've obviously moved down, rally, moved down. We're having another rally. Is this just a rally, or is it going to further move up? We've been seeing divergence on the indicator here as well, as it was topping out here at the top. So we are seeing some running out of the trend at resistance. It's just a question now, can this 4-hour chart downtrend that we're seeing continue to move down the chart and change the day chart trend, which is up to down? So time will tell. So you have to decide now. Obviously, the day chart, the weekly chart trend is down, the day chart trend is up, the 4-hour chart trend is down. Where do you want to take your bias for trading? If you're very much intraday, then you might want to take your bias from the day chart. So you're looking for an opportunity to buy. Whereas for myself, I'm feeling more like the weekly trend in command. We may be putting in a lower top. Day chart trend hasn't changed trend yet, just because it hasn't changed yet. The 4-hour though is or has changed, and maybe we're just having a rally for the next leg down here. So my bias is to the downside, not because I want to be a seller, just because that's the way I'm looking at things. We have stopped at 4-hour resistance here, 131.25.1 on this rally back up. It's going to drop it to the 15. So you can see we've, as I discussed before, we've had a trend line break and we are moving down from resistance. And it's just deciding, does it want to get below the 79% fib level here at the moment? Now, you could be waiting. You could already be short. You could be waiting for maybe a break below the figure, which would be a clear break below the 79% level. So it's kind of getting a bit of support at the 79 at the moment. So you just have to work out what would be your trigger to trade if you want to trade to the downside. If you want to trade to the upside, for me personally, if I wanted to trade this pair to the upside, I need to see the 4-hour chart in an uptrend. Okay, we don't have that. I don't have that at the moment, but that would then be aligning itself in line with the daily chart trend. So aligning myself with the weekly chart trend at the moment. All right, so you can monitor that pair, euro dollar. This pair is a bit of a dog at the moment. This is the day chart, and you can see lots of consolidation. I'm drawing in my daily levels of support and resistance, and you can see we're moving up to the top. It is well defined, so I mean, I am saying it's a bit of a dog, but at least it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a well-behaved dog. That's what I was looking for. It is holding on supports, and it is holding at resistance. It's operating in a nice channel. So, and the channel is not very wide. In real terms, it's about 110 pips. So really, if this is your favorite pair, you want to be looking for an opportunity to sell at the top and being a buyer at the bottom. The overall trend from the weekly perspective is down. Well, let's go to the monthly chart. The monthly trend is down. So your biggest high time frame trend is down. The weekly, because we're consolidating, is starting to put in a higher bottom here. So we may be having some, the last big leg of the weekly chart move was there. So for me at the moment, we're having some form of correction this way against that move down. It doesn't seem to have a lot of legs in it because it's just stuck in a 100 pip range. So this might just hold here, looking at the weekly chart, and over time, move that way with the dominant monthly strong trend that we had through the course of 2021. Of course, it can move a lot higher. So at the moment, it's in support and resistance on the daily chart, but if we go to the monthly, put in the levels. Monthly resistance, there's one just here at 114.12. That's that top just there where my mouse is. There's monthly support from that top just there. It's at 112.39. Moving up to show you where weekly resistance is, there's a level, there's a top there at 114.95. So if you do move higher, looking for maybe an opportunity to be a seller higher up to position yourself for a move down in line with the bigger monthly trend that we've got. We'll move this back down to the daily. You see, still very much range bound. We could pop up to 114.12, that's monthly resistance, or we could pop up higher to 114.95, weekly resistance. All right. I don't really want to be a buyer on this pair, trying to trade through these levels of resistance. I just much prefer to look for failure at resistance in line with the monthly high time frame trend and try to position myself maybe for the next move down long term. So back to the 4-hour chart. As I was saying, at the moment, it's just contained within the daily levels of support and resistance. So I'm guessing, you have to put your range trading hat on, looking for a failure at resistance or a buy opportunity at support. Okay. There's not that much room from daily resistance. There is approximately 30 pips up to monthly resistance. So, that's a tight range to try and make some profit on break of daily resistance. Okay. So I would look for fair resistance in some form on that pair. Pound yen, I'm not going to cover too much on this pair because I don't know what it's doing up here at the moment. But the monthly chart, there's a monthly top here. Got a few lines overlaid here, but there's a monthly top there. And then there's a monthly bottom here, and there's a major range that we're in. We might be fractionally above that top at the moment. And then there's a smaller range here and a higher level of monthly support. And we're just fractionally out of that range, but not by much. So if you move to the weekly chart, so my levels of monthly resistance are 156.07, 156.59, 158.21 to the nearest pip. You can go and get the exact pippage if you want to go to the highs on the monthly chart. And what you can see there, monthly support down here at 148.45 is we're in a broad range, and we're in what I would class here as a monthly area of resistance up here between 156.07, that top there, and the more recent monthly top up here at 158.21. Do you want to be a buyer in an area of monthly resistance? For me, I don't. But it depends on what your philosophy is for this pair. If you think this is going to break considerably higher, then you could be using these levels of monthly resistance. They could be acting as support now, to be support to trade up off to the upside. Or if you're concerned that you are in a major area of resistance, you need to be looking for a failure in this area. So let's just go to the daily chart. Daily chart at the moment, still showing high tops and bottoms. Daily resistance is this top up here, which we've held at 157.771. Obviously, we've sold down from that level, got support at monthly support high from over here, came back above the other level of monthly support or resistance at 156.59. Is this the last rally up? Is this dropping to that higher bottom, coming up for a lower top to form? Because if we form a negative candle today and have a day down tomorrow, that's potentially putting in a lower top. So for this uptrend to continue, we need a positive candle, another positive candle, and move through. If we put in a day down tomorrow after this day today, that's probably going to start to get this MACD wanting to come down and cross. And then I would anticipate over time this is going to move down. So for me to engage on this pair at the moment, I need to be engaging below 156.07 if I want to be a seller. Can price get below the area of resistance? Can then 156.07 become new resistance for the market? So what I'd like to see is that to move below. Then that level becomes resistance. I don't have that, and I don't know if this is going to break above that level at the moment or come back down. All I know is on the weekly chart there was a lot of support here for it to move back up. Is this support the strength that's going to push it through the areas of monthly resistance? I don't know. So I don't want to be a buy where it is, and I don't want to sell where it is either until we get back below these monthly tops. So you can take that analysis and work with it. Now let's move to the next pair. So if it does start to move, put in the lower top though, that's going to catch my attention. Pound dollar. Now I'm going to go to the weekly chart. I did some analysis on this pair this week on the website. It's on the ACY Australia YouTube channel. What I was saying was there was, or is still, a fraction above, but I'm going to still class these as resistance. So monthly support's down here. That's at 131.68. Moving up to, and we're at the moment testing 135.71, 136.02 resistance. We are above both of those levels at the moment. But when you've got weekly resistance or weekly support, you can move through those levels and then move back below them. So just because we're trading above at the moment doesn't mean to say we are completely broken through those levels. If we start to close above 136.02 on the day chart, then maybe we have. But what I've been looking at is from that lower high to the lower low, I'm going to move it to the day chart now, is we've got my weekly levels of resistance here, and we had a 62% level there. And before we broke above yesterday, we were holding at 136.02 and the 62% level. So I was anticipating that maybe that level was going to hold, and we're going to move back down this way to weekly support, 131.68. Now, price could still do that. For sure, this MACD is very overextended, could be due a cross down. That might confirm the final top coming in. At the moment, the price action is still up on the daily. Might want to wait, sit tight for that day to turn down to get back in line with the weekly. Of course, this might just continue up and break above the next level of weekly resistance at 138.34. If it does that, that's going to change the weekly trend to up, which is going to change my overall viewpoint. At the moment, I am still waiting for a failure at the 136.02. Can we move back below that today? It'd be great if we have a negative candle today closing back below 136.02. I don't know whether it will do that, but that would be great if we did. What I was saying in my video analysis the other day was I was looking for the 4-hour chart to turn to down on a failure at 136.02. At the moment, we can clearly see we have an uptrend trending up. We rejected that level, but we put in a higher bottom, and then we moved further up. So what I'm seeing at the moment is that we've just completed potentially a uptrend continuation pattern, pull back to 62 level here, moved up to the 127 extension. We are still in an uptrend. So all that might happen now is that we pull back to the 62% level again, which is very close, just a fraction below 136.02. It's at 135.93. So it could jab below that level into the 62 level and bounce back up. And if it does that, seeing support at 136.02, if you want to trade in line with the day chart trend, that would be where you would be trading to be a buyer if you're a buyer at the moment on this pair. Okay. I've got a hand coming up from Fofi Jr. If you've got a question, just feel free to type it in. More than happy to answer a question. I don't know if you're just saying hello, but hello if that's all you're doing. So at the moment, if you are on the side of the buyers, in line with the day chart trend, that's what I will be looking for. Just going to move to the 15-minute chart. This level 136.02 in the figure here at 136, that should be a good level of support if the buyers are in control. If the buyers aren't in control and the sellers have come in today and want to push it back down and reverse the whole trend on the day chart, this level will give. So you need to decide, are you a buyer or a seller? Buyer, 36.02, the figure should hold. Maybe it can dip into the 62% retracement level, which is down at 35.93. That area there, you want to see price come in and move clearly back up if you want to be a buyer on the setup. All right, for me, because I'm trying to trade in line with the weekly dominant trends and in line with the big downtrend that we've been seeing over the last probably 6 months or more, £1. I'm just waiting for the 4-hour chart to change its trend to down. Can it rally back up and falter underneath 136 level? It'd be great as well if that drops down, changes trend. The 62% level maybe coincides with the 136.02 level. Price holds there and then starts to move down. So I'm just mapping out what I'd like to see. Doesn't have to give me what I would like to see, but I need to see a 4-hour change in trend and price holding below 136.02 for me to get back excited and looking for an opportunity to trade down. Hopefully down to 131.68 if the trend starts to change into a strong downtrend. So at the moment, day chart trend is up, 4-hour trend is up there. I'm not going to sell that until I get a clear signal. It may still want to move further up. So you can monitor which side of the market you're favoring there. All right, I'm just going to get into the New Zealand Yen, New Zealand Dollar before we wind up. This is the weekly chart here, the New Zealand Yen. Very similar look to the Aussie Yen in that it's moved down to a lower bottom. I'm looking at the weekly chart trend is now down and this is rallied back up. I traded a little bit above this weekly top here, 78.64, and traded up to this area of weekly, this is actually a monthly top as well here, monthly weekly resistance here at 79.21. So it actually held there, put in a negative week, back below both those levels of resistance come the close of last week. And I'm anticipating that, we've moved down, we've rallied, and we're going to move down. Of course, we have to contend with these levels of weekly support, 76.01 and 76.32.9. First level, let's put the first level in, 76.32.9. If you can break that level, of course, the next level is in play. There's actually 2 levels there. And the long-term target could well be, let me just get rid of that line, put a fib in play. Didn't really get up to the 62, I only got to the 50. So that's kind of weak. If that is the top, that means that the buyers didn't have the strength to push it beyond resistance to the 62. So that's weak. I would anticipate we're going to break through maybe levels of support here. We could test this level of support, 74.55, target 127 extension. So that's very close to support. So it might get to the extension or your target might be support here. That's, of course, if price starts to move down. All right, what we're seeing, negative week last week, daily chart, daily trend is still up. Higher bottom, higher top, higher bottom. So we don't have a true downtrend form yet. We did have a bit of a slight move up through here and then an outside reversal candle. But the 4-hour chart is going to tell you that we're down. MACD here is trying to cross down too. So that's kind of confirming that maybe this is the final top. 4-hour, as I was mentioning before, just showing the same pattern that I'm seeing on the Euro Yen, Aussie Yen, move down, rally, starting to feel at the 79% level. And if you saw that level, we have had a trend line break like the other pairs. Question now is on all these pairs, Is it going to move further down during the course of the day? All right. New Zealand dollar. This is the New Zealand pairs are probably the weakest pairs of them all at the moment, especially the New Zealand dollar. And I'm just going to go to the weekly chart. And I'm just going to delete these lines off just to show you on the monthly chart. It's the same as the Aussie dollar, lower tops and bottoms here. All right, mark these cross down. Then what we're seeing on the weekly, got my lines back in. This area of resistance is held. You can see it there, putting in a lower top at that level. So the question is, can we move below 67.02? Maybe then down to the next level of weekly support at 65.12. Just following the trend down. Daily. Let's get rid of that fib there. All right, so on the daily, we're seeing prices move through the higher bottom to a lower bottom, so the trend is down. Earlier in the day, what I did was I drew a fib from high to low. So it's from last week's high to the current week's low. And then what I saw was when I moved to the 4-hour chart, to see what price is doing, the 68.04 weekly resistance level lines up very close to 62% fib, 68.06. So we didn't actually get up to that level in terms of what price has done today. As well, if I just adjust things, move that fib to that top, you'll see that we have stopped at a 62% retracement. So maybe it's operating between that range, but I like that range better because it lines up with that weekly level of resistance. So it might pop further up, or it may have stopped at the other 62% level that I showed you. But what I'm doing is just watching up here to see whether the price comes up to that level and holds and fails. 15-minute chart. We already have seen a turnaround intraday at the other 62% level. So if I just move back, get rid of that level, put in the other levels. Maybe price is operating within this range, and then it's going to move down to the 127 extension, which is almost overlapping with weekly support here. So around about the 67 level. Are we failing here to move down to the 67 level or move through? 15-minute chart, you can see, try to get above 62 by a few pips, failed, and then it's been moving down. So it does look like a failure up there at the moment. Again, another pair with negative divergence at its failure at the fib levels. Seeing quite a few of those failing at the fib level today, showing 15-minute divergence in a trend line break. All right, so those are my levels and trends that I'm watching at the moment on the pairs. Hopefully that gave you some valuable information. If there's anything you want to ask me, feel free to put something in the chat or the question box. If I've got time for another pair, so if you want to throw up a pair or instrument, then throw it at me and we'll have a look at it. I just want to go and see what's going on. All right, so the Aussie Yen's just coming back up to maybe another test of resistance. Euro Yen still holding there. The market is waiting for that US news item coming out later in the evening, so maybe the market might not do too much before then. Or while I'm waiting for a pair to come in or not, for those on YouTube, if you're on YouTube and you've been following along, I can't see the chat, but I would like to just give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, and you're more than welcome to join us in the webinar. Just go to acy.com, education webinars, and you'll find the up and coming webinars Tomorrow evening, we've got trade orders and execution, 8 p.m. Sydney time, and the rest of them for the next 5 sessions. This is the one we're in today. So the next 5 sessions are there at the moment if you want to go and review that. So Jason's asking me a question. If these pairs do drop, could gold do the same? Well, let's have a look at gold, put that in perspective. So if the yen pairs fail, move down, that's kind of risk off. And when we tend to get risk off, that's kind of positive for gold. So money is moving out of, well, it's moving, you know, it's moving out, say, the stock market, which is classed as risk. It's moving into the yen, which is classed as a safe currency. Now, in terms of risk as well, money can move to gold. So I wouldn't expect gold to move down. I would probably expect gold to move back up, unless there are other factors at play. But let's have a look at the trends of gold. Let's go top down. All right, so the monthly at the moment, it's been kind of failing at this top over here, as you can see. But we can put in some closer levels of support or resistance at the moment. So this top just here, 1916.59. $1676.75. All right, so hopefully you can see that it's kind of consolidatory on the monthly. On the weekly, you can see that it's very consolidatory. It's, for all the period of time, it's been stuck in between those levels of support and resistance that I've drawn in. And there was an area here that in the middle of the range that was acting as resistance for quite a while. Then we moved up and we held at that level of resistance to the left, this level here. And then we moved down to a lower, just a lower bottom. So at the moment, we could be in this weekly range. That's 1877.18. I'm just going to draw it in close enough. And support here at 1758. 1759 is the nearest round number, just there. All right, so maybe we're now operating between that weekly level, weekly range. But you can see where prices have moved up to at the moment. So it is putting a lower bottom there, just running back up and look left, and now it's maybe holding at this level. So let's put that approximate level in. That's at 118.34 is the nearest number. All right, so maybe it's stuck between here and here now. To daily, see that's to a lower bottom. Maybe it's rallying, putting in a lower top. Also, so as I said, it moved down to a lower bottom on the weekly. Is this corrective to the 62 and resistance for a move down that way? All right. Overall, this pair at the moment is rather range bound. I know your question was, if the yen pairs move down, will this move up? Well, if it's a severe risk-off environment, maybe, because in a risk-off environment, money can flow towards gold, but other factors can play in that as well. If I'm just looking at pure price action at the moment, I'm seeing a downtrend potentially on the weekly, although we're range bound. I'm seeing a downtrend on the daily. So I've got 2 of the high time frames at the moment in a downtrend. Although we are quite range bound, maybe we're just operating between here at the moment. Weekly support to weekly resistance, back down to weekly support. All right. Now, some news could obviously come out and change that overall view of the market, and we maybe will break above this level of resistance and come up and challenge the next high level of resistance. But at the moment, if I'm just purely looking at trend, weekly trend is down, the daily trend is down. If I move to the 4-hour chart, and draw, that's moved down, rally, down, rally. Maybe, this is failing at the 79% level in line with the other failures that we're seeing on the other yen pairs. So maybe at the moment it is just moving in line with the a bit of yen strength. The other equational thing to throw into the mix. So that's the look at gold. So maybe it is moving down, but this could get support here and then move obviously up and through. Is on the S&P 500 daily, this big drop that we've got, the current bounce is up to the 62% level. Now, the question is, because, if I was drawing my fib like a textbook, thanks, Jason. If I was drawing this like a textbook, this actual S&P 500 at the moment in terms of tops and bottoms is from this bottom here, which is a lower bottom from that bottom, but it's moved up to a higher top. You would draw your fib that way, showing an uptrend. So it's got support at 79, maybe to move higher. So that's the trend look in terms of pure price action trend. What I'm seeing now is divergence. And some tops here. I'm just going to use where we've got the most tops. I'm going to use this middle one because that one false broke it. I'm just putting it in, not putting it in to the exact number, but near enough. There we go. So let's say this divergence is calling the final top, and we've fallen back below what should have been support. Does that become resistance? Drawing a fib that way, we're at the 62% level. So then, are we retesting resistance to put in a lower top there? Time will tell. So, if the stock market gets very weak, we might see gold move up. Or, but there may be the stock market's moving back up and gold's going to move down. So I can't just look at the yen pairs without looking at what the stock market's doing too. And Nathan, you're saying, what about Bitcoin? How long can it go? Let's pull up Bitcoin. I'll give you 2 minutes on Bitcoin before we finish. I haven't actually been following Bitcoin over the last few weeks, so I don't actually know what's been going on too much. I don't trade these instruments, so where are we? All right, just get him a chart set. All right, I mean, the monthly trend is up. I don't know whether you can trade Bitcoin by the monthly chart, but it is up, higher top, obviously fading up there. Weekly trend is down, coming to a good level of support. I'm not going to put in the exact number. I'm going to put close enough on these instruments just to do a bit of analysis. So there's obviously support here at 41,317, 39,567. Current week's rejecting that level. I know when we put the final top in, we've got divergence here. So maybe are we getting a long-term reversal? Of course, if we move further down, there's obviously this big area of support here. The triple bottom area of support. Maybe it's going to go down to that kind of area. It's about just below the 30,000 level there. Day chart trend is still down. Obviously, we're having a bounce here. If that day chart trend can hold its trend, it might rally back up to that level of old support, becoming resistance. Does it hold there for another go down at support? And Nathan is telling me they're doing worse than the English cricket team. Well, that's a bit harsh, but he likes to have a go at me because I'm English, but I do have an Australian citizenship, so I can bat for either team. All right, so that's a look at Bitcoin. I mean, the weekly trend is still down. We're on weekly support. So I don't know, very volatile, Bitcoin. I don't trade it for that reason. I mean, how do you hold a position on that pair over the weekend? All right, so let's look at Bitcoin. Hopefully that helped you. All right, everybody, any final questions before we conclude? Thanks very much for attending this evening. Hopefully you got some good levels and a good idea of the trends. Thanks, Nathan. And just as a final thing, if you're coming in late, I have been discussing the fact that we got a new Telegram service to complement the webinars and the information that I'm teaching in the webinars. If you want to get access to this, I'm posting some charts every day with levels that I'm watching along the lines of what I'm teaching in the webinars. If you want to get access to that, I have put it in the chat before, but I'll just put it in the chat again. If you want to get access, just contact Nathan Bray. I'll put his email in the chat. And there we go. Just email him. He'll contact you. And he'll be happy to have a chat with you. Have a fuller maybe chat about what we're doing in there. Basically, at the beginning of the week, I'm going through 6 currency pairs. If I just scroll back a bit to the start of the week. So I go through 6 currency pairs at the start of the week on the day charts. Bit of a lesson on support and resistance. I'm showing where the monthly, weekly, and daily levels of support and resistance are, and the ones that I'm watching, and what maybe I'm expecting might be happening through the course of the week. And then from there, I'm just doing my normal analysis for my own trading. I'm looking at the levels that I might want to engage in. This one here was on Monday for the Euro Yen, and it was the first continuation pattern that we've seen to the downside this week, which worked out quite nicely. So really, I was just showing you are we going to be seeing a continuation pattern moving down? I was highlighting the level of the area between the 62 and the 79% area that I was watching for failure. And then the question mark is, well, is this an area where maybe the market might top and move down? And I give an indication of where, a very, if just using technical analysis, where technical analysis might put in a target for you. So I was just highlighting the potential there of a continuation pattern to the downside. And in that case, that pattern did run out as potentially shown. So I'm just showing trading analysis, levels that I'm watching. I'm going through trend and support and resistance, how I'm using it. And so that can help as a learning resource to the webinars that we're also delivering. So if you want to get access to that, simply contact Nathan and he'll have a chat with you about it. All right, everybody. If you're on YouTube, thanks very much for attending. If you're in the webinar with me tonight, thanks very much for attending. I'm always grateful for people turning up. And if you've got the time, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we're going through. Let me just bring it up for you. Going to go through trade orders and execution tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Sydney time. So just hop onto the website and register if you want to come along. Other than that, thanks very much for attending.